Gene Key 37. This is the final day of the sun transit. The shadow is weakness, the gift is equality, and the Siddhi, the highest expression of this archetype, is tenderness. For anybody who's new to my channel or new to the Gene Keys, I love contemplating and sharing my contemplation during the sun transit. I love the Gene Keys as well. And if you're totally new to the Gene Keys, you don't have to know the Gene Keys to perhaps enjoy this contemplation as we move through the frequency bands and speak to the human journey of moving out of our victim stance, which is where we are in our shadow. It's often a place we feel stuck in our life. To understand our gift. We all have a gift. We all have a creative genius within us, and the bravery required to get out of the victim state and to uncover and discover the gifts, and the idea that one day we may taste the highest frequency and the highest possibility of being human. The Siddhi, the Siddhic level, it's a Sanskrit word, basically to speak to this concept of unity consciousness. So the shadow of weakness is really about having the dilemma of submission. And in our culture, and some more than others, we are very much nurtured to be submissive and to not claim our independence. And Richard Rudd speaks about our weakness as a collective in terms of the weakness of how the female, the yin quality that we all have within us, as Carl Jung was the one who started to discover that we all have these poles within us, this yin and the yang, the more inward or could be melancholic, receptive yin qualities to the more assertive, outward, crazy for no reason, yang qualities, happy for no reason, yang. And we have all of these within us, but for many of us, we have suppressed some of these qualities. And Richard Rudd speaks to this idea, and I so can see this in my own life, and ask you the question, where do you feel weak in your life? Where do you feel this weakness? And what is your relationship to the weakness you perceive for yourself? And is it possible, as Richard Rudd says, that when we go towards our weakness and go into the weakness, that often it can become our strength? So just inviting you to explore that in your own life. Where do you feel weak? And do you have the courage, perhaps, to go towards that instead of perhaps push it away or feel shameful for that weakness? It's interesting. I'm here in the neighborhood of where I grew up. My family home is here. I'm visiting. And it's very interesting timing because this gene key is called family alchemy. And so I'm actually feeling a little bit under the weather today. I had one of my deepest patterns has been migraine headaches and also a lot of sore throats. And so I have had both in the last couple of days. For me, I've been doing a lot of conscious intentional work and going back into my past. And so it feels like this is coming up for some deeper healing. And I remember being a young girl and wishing that I was a boy because I saw that boys had it easier. That was my idea anyways. And I've been on a journey of, as a tomboy growing up kind of, and then swinging the pendulums the other way to really embrace my yin side and lost a little bit of my masculine side. And even just now finding that balance in myself and embracing the feeling weak and asking for help. That's what Richard Rudd says in the audio of this one, that it's so often for so many of us hard to ask for help. And yet to get out of those lower states, the victim states, we almost always need some kind of help. And it's not that kind of codependent help. And as I was listening to the audio and recently coming from the Human Garage coaches immersion and witnessing the team, the core Human Garage team, and how beautiful they all support one another and encourage this, asking for help. Again, coming from this place of freedom for people to find their independence. And they have a really great story of, they had a practice in the States, in California, a clinic. And what they realized is that people kept coming back to them for the same problems. And sometimes the problems that they would fix they'd come back and it would be worse. And what they realized is that they needed to develop some practice for people to take accountability for their own health so that they could heal themselves. So they ended up closing the clinic during COVID, or maybe a bit before COVID, and started creating these fascial maneuvers for people to be able to have that independence, to take care of themselves and heal themselves. And of course, this isn't to say that we don't need help sometimes, but primarily we need to take that action for ourselves to heal ourselves and not wait for somebody outside of us to heal us. And this is speaking to the gift quality, and the gift quality that takes that boldness to want to really claim this life and find a deeper purpose for our life, and find that vigor that comes with that purpose. And we're speaking through these shadow, gift, and Siddhic levels of climbing the consciousness. And as Richard Rudd states, this equality, we can all be born into different situations, and it can sometimes seemingly appear that things are unfair. Some people are born into lack, or born in with conditions that give them a sort of disadvantage, or a privilege. And what he says is this equality is that we all have the equal opportunity to ascend our consciousness. So from that perspective, we're all given a task that we can surmount if we don't cave in, if we don't submit, and if we dare to have the courage to go for what makes life juicy. And I love, he says, we're a human race, and this is a race against time to ascend these frequency levels of consciousness. No one wins the race. We all end up in the same place, but when we go for it, it does bring that vigor into life. It gives us that sense of purpose. And so balancing these yin and yang qualities in ourselves and finding the equality within us, we then can share that within our family units or our communities. And as he states, we can look at blood family, but it doesn't necessarily have to be blood family, because at the end of the day, we are all family. We're all one human race. And the power of a group of people coming together. And again, Human Garage is such a great example of this, the power of what a small community has been able to do in such a short period of time, because they have that sense of family, and they do have blood family that supports them. Some of them were there in the immersion. It's such a beautiful experience to see the passion that a group of people can have. And again, Richard Rudd's words in the audio are, a small group of people, a small family unit can take down a government. And I think that's such a powerful message for what's going on in the world right now. And again, not coming from the victim, the shadow, where a lot of times we fight to keep ourselves in that victim state, in those lower shadow consciousnesses. But again, now going into the Siddhic level here of tenderness, that tenderness, the archetype of the mother, that everyone in the family can feel they can go to the mother and receive this tenderness. And if you don't have a mother, the mother archetype, whether you feel that in the earth or you feel that from a specific being, is to just tap into that feeling of tenderness. And I was thinking about, as I was listening to the audio, like my weakness. And I know I had this pattern of having migraines growing up as a young girl. And I also had this feeling of needing to be hard and to look like I had it together and be the strong one. And I can see how that actually created a weakness in me versus, allowing myself to be held when I wasn't feeling well or to ask for help. And I can feel my tenderness because I do surrender to when I'm not feeling well and asking for what I need, but I didn't used to be that way. And so I can see a tenderness that can shine through when we just allow ourselves to be and show up in the world as exactly as we are, and trust that we do have the support needed in our fellow humanity. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this theme, on any of the areas of the shadow, the gift, or the city that has spoken to you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.